Good evening from PLUGHITZ Studios in Largo, Florida. I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we are here with episode 499 of F5 Live, Refreshing Technology, for May 20th, 2018. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, Samsung might have lost their edge. Microsoft is trying new things, and YouTube rebrands their services. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, on our live stream platforms, of which there are a lot. Let's go through them real quick. It's Livestream, Mixer, Periscope, Twitch, YouTube Live, and Facebook Live, or through subscription on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music Podcast, the Podcast Play app in the Windows Store, or the myriad of other podcatchers. Thank you for making us a part of your day. This here is F5 Live, Refreshing Technology, the flagship show in the PLUGHITZ Live family of content. We are live Sunday nights at about 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And we go for about an hour. We will talk about the tech news of the week. There are two ways that you can join us. The first is live on Sunday night by going to f5live.tv/join us. There, you can chat with us in the chat room. The chats that we can see easily tonight are Mixer, Twitch, and YouTube. So if you want to chat with us, those are your best ways to do it tonight. If you're not able to join us live, that is okay. You can also subscribe to this and all of our other shows by going to plughitzlive.com/subscribe. There you will see all of our series, including F5 Live and The Pilch Point, which will be on in just a little bit with a bit of a new focus, which we're all very excited about. And our other series as well, including special events, which is about to become really active, and so is First Looks. So definitely subscribe to those as well. And with that, I think that's it. Avram, how have you been? It's been a while.
Oh, very, very busy. Very busy with the new job. It's taken over as editor-in-chief of Tom's Hardware. Just a lot of things that we want to get done, and I want to get done, and not enough hours in the day to do them all. Working with our writers to try and make the site, to try and improve the editorial on the site, assigning some new stuff to new writers, interviewing people for some open jobs, writing some things myself. It's been busy, but busy is good. I just wish I had more hours in the day to do things.
Sure.
But it's been very busy, and I'd rather this than the opposite. So, preparing feverishly for Computex. That's going to be a much bigger deal for me this year than ever before, because this is my opportunity and my new role to meet with a lot of companies that I haven't spent a lot of time with or any time with before, because we have much more of a component focus on Tom's Hardware than I did on laptops. So, some of the RAM vendors and cooling vendors that I spent a little time with, or not much time with, or no time with. Now I've got to come and I got to meet with them and really work on the
Sure.
on that coverage and on those relationships. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be busy. So it's a time.
For those who don't necessarily follow everybody's event schedule, when is Computex this year?
So Computex is later this year than in prior years.
Okay.
I will be leaving on Friday, June 1st, but leaving to go there on Friday, June 1st. But for as far as the coverage goes and the show goes, people can expect news to start on that following Monday, which is the 4th.
Okay.
Yes. So the 4th is the press day. So I expect that we'll have lots of news on the 4th, and then on the 5th is the first official day of the show.
Got it. All right. Very cool. So that means that on the 3rd.
Yeah, on the 3rd, I'm going to be in Taiwan.
I will have a guest co-host.
Yeah, Yeah, you definitely should because we're 12 hours ahead, so I'd have to call in at 9 in the morning, which
which would be the
generally
beginning, which would be the beginning of
beginning of the
press day.
press day.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the beginning of press day.
that's no
So
good.
unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to spare that morning.
That is okay.
What is
So,
morning for me is evening for you,
yes.
or will be. Um,
So that week, folks, we will have a guest host sitting here. Hopefully, if I had to take a guess, I probably know who I'm going to ask, but we will figure that out in the near future. For those of you who follow us on social media, you may have noticed I posted a picture a little while ago. We made some changes here in the studio, which I'm very excited about. From where I'm sitting now, I can see the show topics. I can see Avram and the chat room all in front of me without having to look over to the side. For those who are regulars, you might have noticed that for a long time, like, I look off in weird directions to look at Avram when he's talking. That's not going to have to be the case anymore because he's now right in front of me. I'm very happy about that because during the pilch point in particular, it's very strange because I look to my left, but you're over to my right in the video. So that has always looked strange. So I get to look straight ahead and I can keep an eye on Avram the whole time, which is fantastic.
Yep. I can't make any strange faces and you not see.
That's true. That's true. I will definitely see it. I don't expect you to stop doing weird things if you've been doing them, but at least I'll know about it before editing it later in the evening. Anyway, I think that's about it. How about we get down to some news?
Yeah.
This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Right now, you can save $200 on select Surface Pro models and a lot more. In fact, a product that we're going to be talking about in the gaming section later is already listed on the site, the new Xbox adaptive controller. We'll talk about that during gaming. You can get the Surface Book 2. Right now, if you buy an Xbox One X, you get an extra controller for free, which is a pretty great deal. But that's not all. There's all kinds of other things that are available through the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for an Xbox One or a Surface laptop, of course they have that. But there's also things like the Fitbit Versa and the Samsung Galaxy S9. All of that and more are available by going to f5live.tv/Microsoft. So, speaking of Samsung, let's talk about an interesting trend that we've started to see from them, particularly this generation of devices. 2018 has been a little rough for people who are excited about getting updates, people who are perhaps annoyed by the incredible length of time between an Android update and the time that a Samsung flagship device gets said update, and therefore troll the message boards waiting for the moment that Samsung announces that Oreo is available for your Galaxy S8, for example. Or this week, finally the Galaxy S7 and 7 Edge, months after it was made available to the public. You troll the boards, you wait for that moment, you go do the update, and your phone starts randomly restarting because there's a problem with the update. This week, it was the Galaxy S7 and 7 Edge. In February, I believe, it was the S8, S8 Plus, and the T-Mobile variant of the Note 8. All 5 of these devices, if you were one of those who was excited to finally get the update and you were out there hitting refresh, waiting for them to publish it, and you got it within the first 24 hours, you got to experience random restarts on your phone that kind of made the phone almost impossible to use, which obviously is no good, especially for somebody who loves Samsung enough to be out there with the flagship device and spend that kind of money. It's almost certainly your primary device. I'm probably one of the oddballs who has an S8 Plus, and it's not my primary device. But I still haven't received the Oreo update. My phone keeps telling me 7's the best I can get. So when you combine all of that weirdness together and then think back about the issues that they had with the Note 7 last generation, and then Avram's personal experience with one of their washing machines, and the fact that Laptop Mag rated them number 9 on the Laptop Showdown, I think it's time for Samsung to take a good hard look at what they're working on.
They were tied for last.
Right. That's no good. But, each division is separate. Just because Cherie wrote a wonderful editorial saying it's time for Samsung to hang up their spurs in the laptop division.
Yeah.
We're not saying that Samsung needs to get out of electronics, but I
think they should continue with phones.
Absolutely. But it's all
in TVs for sure.
For sure. That's kind of, those two are how they keep their lights on. But I think maybe they need to stop putting all of their focus on hitting a deadline with their new devices and start supporting the people who love them already.
Here's the thing, though. Hitting a deadline, when did Oreo come out? The fall? And people are getting it now in, the spring? Yeah. I would hardly call that much of a deadline. I mean...
For sure. I think what they're what at least part of their problem is they put a lot of their time into the 10 right now, and everybody in the mobile division is worried about the GS10, and nobody is worried about supporting the 8, the 7, the 9.
So obviously, here's the thing, right? And this has been a problem since the beginning of Android. So what are we talking, 10 years now?
Yep.
Something like that, very close. Like that. I think the first major Android device was 09, right? I mean, that's when you got the Motorola Droid.
Yeah.
I believe.
Because the G1 came out in late 07, early 08, but they sold 150 of them. You're right. When the Motorola Droid, when Verizon got on board, that was kind of the beginning of.
That was the turning point for me.
For sure.
So ever since so whatever you want to say, 9 or 10 years now that they've been doing this, the problem has always been that Android. It really makes you appreciate what Microsoft does, because Microsoft is able to come out with Windows updates on a fairly regular basis. And they work across, a million billion possible combinations of hardware. You could make your own PC with your own Wi-Fi card and your own unique combination,
bizarre combination of hardware configurations.
And Windows Update will work.
Yeah.
But for Android, and I don't really understand why it can't be this way. They don't have a model like that. Where Google can just push out an update to everybody who uses Android. So now you're reliant on the kindness of the individual manufacturers who have no incentive whatsoever to upgrade you. What is their incentive to do it? They have your money.
They're almost anti-incented, because if they stop supporting. The 9's out now. If you've got a 7, you're probably eligible for an upgrade now or soon. So they're kind of anti-incented from supporting the 7 for sure. Yeah,
I mean they're also it costs them money to do. They can end up with embarrassing situations like this one where they release an update that causes problems. Probably a certain chunk of their users wouldn't notice if they never did update them. So it's, I don't know. I mean, I I get it. Like, I want all the latest stuff. On the other hand, if you have a Samsung phone, the update isn't necessary. You don't necessarily notice a lot of differences because they still have their skin on top of it.
Right.
So you're not really getting, like, if you have a Google phone, like going from 7 to 8.
Uh-oh. Avram froze up. I think what he was going to say is if you've got like a Pixel 2 and going from 7 to 8 is a big noticeable change, but when you've got like a Samsung device and they've got their skin on top of it, going from 7 to 8 isn't necessarily as noticeable. Avram's back. I see him moving again.
Yeah, it's weird. Always the time. So yeah, exactly. So, I mean, they're incentivized not to do it. I like that they're actually doing it. Get it right. I mean, the best persuasion for Samsung is embarrassment. So if they embarrass themselves and they got some negative headlines because of a failed update, fully, they be a little bit more careful next time. On the other hand, it really does make you worry that, like, maybe if you are seeing an update come to you, maybe you should deny it for a few days and make sure before you read whether there's a problem or not.
Yeah.
Because if your phone is random, I don't think there's a rollback feature in Android, right? So, like,
not without getting the Samsung Switch app and on your Windows or Mac and having to manually roll back.
I mean, I don't. I mean, is there like a good solution? Because, I mean, there's not like a restore mode in the OS. I mean, if you've rooted your device, which obviously this is not about rooting, like,
right.
There are ways to get an older version of the OS. But, yeah, I mean, if your thing is randomly rebooting, that's really, really bad situation.
Yeah.
I had a phone like that. And by the way, it was a Samsung phone.
Oh.
Many years ago, was it many years ago? I don't know, 5-6 years ago. I had several years ago, I had a Samsung Stratosphere, right? It was a piece of utter garbage. The reason why I bought it was I loved the physical keyboard on my Motorola Droid. I really did. I didn't want to move on to a software keyboard, and I wanted a 4G phone because the Droid was 3G. Mm-hmm. So when the time came, the only 4G phone with a keyboard around was the Samsung Stratosphere. So, it was a slider. It was it was running the Android of its day. I forget what it was, 3 or 4. But the problem was it would randomly reboot itself, but only if you're in the middle of an important phone call.
Oh, of course.
If you were not in the middle of a call, it was fine. But it was okay. I mean, generally it wouldn't reboot itself, maybe once in a while, but it would always wait till you're like, maybe you had a job interview or I don't know what. You had some really important thing going on, years ago, whatever. And maybe it was, whatever it was, it would reboot itself in the middle of the call. So that thing was an absolute terror. But bottom line, if your phone is rebooting itself, that's really bad.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, both Avram and I are fans of Samsung and their hardware. As we've mentioned, we both have S8 Pluses. Interestingly, with very different.
I have an S8 regular.
Oh, I thought you got the Plus. Okay. Well, we both have S8 somethings.
I have the regular. Yeah.
With interestingly different experiences, because I'm pretty sure Avram's gotten the update, and here I am 6 months later. I still don't have mine, but that's okay. Again, it's not my primary device, and I'm not that worried.
I think it updated recently, but honestly, I didn't notice any difference in features at all.
So we're not, obviously neither one of us are saying that that Samsung should get out of the business or that you should not consider a Samsung device. It's just a little friendly reminder to Samsung that we're all watching. And Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes a little bit of embarrassment in public can help motivate better behaviors. And fingers crossed, maybe that's what we'll get to see here. Maybe they'll pay more attention, test their updates a little bit more before they put them out, because none of us like to have a phone reboot randomly.
Yep.
This week's Pilch Point with Avram Pilch is proudly powered by Monster Products. The headphones on my head right now, a variety of styles from Monster, whether it be the entirely wireless in-ear element to the full over-ear, full cup style elements. Are you looking for something for sports, the iSport, something like that? Or you want a speaker from the little hotshot all the way up to the giant monster blaster. All of that, plus the power and cables to connect it, is available by going to pilchpoint.live/monster. So, we have our first official episode here with Avram in his new position. And if you're watching live, you will have noticed that the animation was a little wrong. If you're not watching live, it won't be wrong. So, obviously the topics that we're going to get to talk about here are going to get to change a little bit. And this week, I think we've got a really good one.
Yeah, I mean, this is one that I might have talked about before. I would have talked about before, but we're definitely trying. Obviously, we're targeting a more enthusiast audience at my new job at Tom's Hardware, but a lot of the things that we're doing and will do are things that should appeal to anyone who's using technology, and certainly to all the viewers and listeners of this show. So, I obviously, no matter how fast your computer is, I have news for you. The bottleneck is you. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. You are the weakest link. No matter, you could have a Pentium. You could dig up an old 8086 machine out of the closet. You will always be the slowest part of your computer, because the computer's waiting for you. It's waiting for your input. It waits for you to type things. It waits for you to move the mouse. It is sitting there right now waiting for you to do something. So, how do you speed up yourself? Because if you speed up yourself, you'll speed up your computer no matter what computer it is. So, there's a few things that I published an article about 13 ways to speed up yourself on tomshardware.com. You can find it if you go to the home page and hit the little scroll button through the carousel. You'll see it there. And there's a few things. That are really important, and some are obvious. Some, I'm sure, the audience will already be doing, and some hopefully will be new to them. First of all, you got to set keyboard shortcuts for everything. Every program that you launch, you should be able to launch with a keyboard shortcut, because every time you move the mouse across the screen and you double click on an icon, you're wasting precious milliseconds or seconds. It adds up. It really does. So what you should be doing is you should be creating keyboard shortcuts for your favorite apps. If you want to launch Chrome, you should make it Control-Alt-C or something. If you want to launch Word, you should make it Control-Alt-W. You really want to try and fix it so that you are using the keyboard more and the mouse less. Because also, every time you have to use the mouse or the touchpad, you have to take your hands off of the home row, unless you have a pointing stick, like you might on a ThinkPad. But even then, you'll still be doing extra moving of the pointer. So, in short, keyboard shortcuts. You gotta assign keyboard shortcuts. Another thing that you should do is assign keyboard shortcuts not only to opening apps, but to things that you type frequently. There are a lot of ways, a lot of macro programs to do this. My favorite is a scripting language called AutoHotkey. It's very easy. It's free and very easy to learn to use. If you check out my article, there's actually some instructions on how to use it. Um, but with this with AutoHotkey, you can, if you type your address a lot, you can fix it so you hit a few keys and it types your whole address for you. If you um, if you need to go hit something on a menu and there's no shortcut for it within the app that you're in. For example, Photoshop Elements has no keyboard shortcut for crop. Very annoying if you're using that all the time and you need to crop things. You got to roll your mouse all the way up to a sub menu to do it. Well, you can use AutoHotkey to assign that to a key. Boom, you're done in like a few milliseconds as opposed to a couple seconds. That time adds up. In addition to that, uh, if you have the option of using a fingerprint reader or facial recognition to log into Windows, you should do that because that is faster than typing your password. Um, Even if you're a super fast typist, it will probably save you a couple seconds every time you unlock. And that gets to another really basic point. If you're not a fast typist, if you're not a touch typist, you got to learn to type faster. That's one of the most important things you can do. There's a lot of great sites out there to teach you. One I like is called 10fastfingers.com. But whichever you use, you got to learn. You got to learn how to type faster. If you're not typing a good, say 85 words per minute or higher, um, you know, on a good day, I could type over 100 words a minute. Now, granted, when you're sitting there and you're thinking about what you're doing, like, oh, I got to compose this, you're not going to type at your highest speed because your brain is working. But if you know that if you can type at 85 words a minute plus, that your hands will be less of a bottleneck. Uh, Obviously, you want to find ways of using the mouse less, scroll less, click less. So one thing that is really obvious, but a lot of people don't realize is if there's a place on a web page that you need to go and you know where it is, like a form that you always fill out, or a word that you're looking for, hit Control F and start typing that word, right? Like I have a web app that I always have to fill out every day. I won't name names here, but it's a very poorly designed web app where there's like 25 fields, and I only have to fill out 3 to use it, right? To do what I need to. So I could scroll, use my scroll wheel and scroll 3 screens down to get to the field that I need to fill in, or I could hit Control F and start typing the name of the text that's in front of the field, and I'm down there in like half a second. So those are some things that you can do to really speed yourself up. Obviously, you want to also learn all the relevant Windows built-in keyboard shortcuts. Little things like hitting Windows key plus arrow to dock your windows to the side of the screen are really helpful. Anything you can do to use the keyboard. Finally, another thing that you really have to do is minimize distractions. Distractions are a big problem, and I find they're a big problem for me. So, and the temptation to go do distracting stuff when you start to do an onerous task is really big. So I use a Chrome extension called Stay Focused, STAYFOCUSD, that I can program to block certain sites so I don't have the temptation to look at Facebook or look at Twitter when I'm heads down working, or to check my email or whatever. So, and then of course you want to look at the quiet hours feature in Windows 10 to make sure that you're limiting the notifications that are popping up so those aren't distracting you. Overall, you want to minimize distractions, minimize scrolling and moving the mouse, and just maximize the time that you're spending doing, thinking, composing, like, oh, I got to write this thing, I got to code this thing, whatever the work here is that you're doing that requires human intelligence versus doing robot work, like rolling your mouse across the screen.
And it's important to note that Microsoft agrees with you so much that in the update to Windows 10 that just released, quiet hours got renamed to Focus Assist, specifically because it's all about staying focused while you're working, not just keeping your device from making noise at night.
Yes. Now, I wish that Windows would actually do a little bit more in that area, like just blocking notifications from some apps, or I guess most apps, is nice. But it I would like to see a more comprehensive focus assistance from built into the OS, like block some websites for me, block block Windows from updating itself while I need focus assist and rebooting. Block block unnecessary noises. Um, One of the things that's extremely annoying is when you're trying to do work and then you have like random noise popping up on your computer.
Yeah.
Some folks know that this is becoming sort of built into the browser in some ways, but some folks know that I actually have written a Chrome extension which is available in the store and some people use, called Silent Site, which allows you to whitelist and blacklist sites, and so that when you can make sure that websites aren't randomly playing noise, making noise in background tabs or even in the foreground tab. I wish you could do that across. Forget the browser. I wish you could do that I wish you could have that with apps. I mean, you sort of can. The volume control in Windows lets you open up and control stuff, but that's after things have already tried to play sounds. Like, that's closing the barn door after the horses run out. Like, you should have the ability to really just generally I use my computer with the sound off for this reason, but it would be good if the Focus Assist would do that for you.
Yeah, the new Focus Assist in 1803 is a lot more powerful in what you can and cannot deal with than quiet hours ever was. Like, you can for priority, you can set certain apps to be priority and stuff like that, and everything else gets turned off. But yeah, it would be great if it also took care of other noises, like websites that just start playing noise all by themselves that aren't necessarily in an audio or a video tag, because if it's not in an audio or a video tag, it doesn't get handled by the new Chrome auto mute, for example.
Well, that's good to know that my plugin is so useful, because it mutes everything by default.
That is not how the Chrome thing works. And by the way, the Chrome one is screwing up games, because most HTML5 games don't have a way to override it. So it's caused some problems, and people have had to turn that capability off, whereas your thing always asks. So
yes. Yeah, so I should probably update that. I kind of thought, it's a little inside baseball for the few of you who may have used my extension. I haven't updated in a while because I kind of thought the built-in Chrome feature was kind of was obviating what it did. But there's desire out there. I'll try to find the time in my copious free time.
Yeah, because any of us have that. Well, I love this topic. We've talked about it a little bit in the past, but I always enjoy having this kind of conversation. Anything you can do to improve yourself or your work environment to make things better is always a good thing to talk about. If people want to see the whole list, where can they get it?
Go to the homepage at tomshardware.com and look in the top stories box on the top. You may have to hit the arrow to scroll over a little bit, but you will find it there.
Well, fantastic. Well, it was great getting our first Tom's Hardware story, and definitely look forward to many more.
Always a pleasure.
This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. All the gaming accessories you need to up your experience, whether it be on PC or on console, Razer has got something for you. And it doesn't matter if you're looking for a new mouse, like the one that we use here in the studio, or you're looking for one of the Chroma keyboards, or you're really getting into the Chroma space and you've got the Philips Hue lights all set to work together, and now you're ready for speakers. They've got Chroma powered speakers as well, and right now if you spend $99, you'll get the pouch for free. If you spend $129, you'll get the giant gaming mouse pad using Battle 18 or Ground 18 as your promo codes. I don't know when those are good through, but they're good right now, so check out all of the devices that they have and see the details on those deals by going to f5live.tv/Razer. So we talked about it a little bit earlier when we were doing the Microsoft promo. Microsoft has been taking some interesting wide swings lately with some of their products. We've seen them surprisingly release an incredibly popular email client and a better camera than Apple does for iPhone. In fact, both of them are rated on the iPhone higher than Apple's own software. They've been working on, improving Cortana by partnering with Amazon to make Cortana and Alexa colleagues. They've really been doing some kind of wide swings, and this week they've brought that new energy to the gaming space with two very different and very interesting products. First is what they're calling the Xbox Adaptive Controller, which is a very large and at first glance very strange looking controller. It's a little smaller than a standard fighting stick for like Street Fighter and stuff like that, but it has two giant instead of the analog sticks, it has two giant like rocker pads. It's got a directional pad which is very large, and then the physical buttons, including the menu buttons, are all very large on the pad. And the reason is that this is for accessible gaming. People who can't necessarily hold a controller for one reason or another. Either maybe they can't open their hand, or maybe they don't have one. Either way, you'd be able to use the rocker without needing the dexterity of fingers. But the thing that really makes it interesting is across the back of the controller are 19 eighth-inch headphone-looking jacks. And no, it's not because they're giving Apple crap for removing the headphone jack from the iPhone. It's because that's the standard for the open controls for accessible gaming. So, say you need to add a breathing pipe type control, like you see on some wheelchairs for somebody who has no mobility. Or maybe you need a large joystick or analog stick. Maybe you need a foot pedal. Through those jacks on the back, you can add all of those to the Xbox experience, which is something that is new and very exciting for people who want to be able to game and want to be able to play games that are Xbox exclusive but haven't been able to for any number of physical reasons. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that they're providing other ways to access the interface. I think it's great that they're looking at new ways to make it available, because not everybody is able to interact with to use the default controllers, and they want to. I think you want to be able to expand who can have access to the experience, and there may be people who don't absolutely need it but do really want it.
Sure. I think it's a great change in focus. Obviously Microsoft has put a lot into the Xbox platform, in particular this last generation. And they've been looking to make it a bigger platform, not even just necessarily for gaming. And it's good to see them circle back. And now that the footprint is really large, now let's go start looking for those places where we can start helping gamers who can't currently use the platform. And I love this. And they've been working with accessory manufacturers as well to add additional functionality all through the XAC, the adaptive controller. There was even a Nintendo looking nunchuck controller that was able to plug in through the adaptive controller. So bringing all kinds of new ways of holding a controller and interacting with the console. I think that's really cool, but it's not the only thing they've been focusing on. They went way the other direction, and they created an arcade cabinet, an incredible arcade cabinet. We'll talk about the details of the cabinet in a second, but they partnered with 343 Industries, which is, of course, an internal Microsoft studio, to produce a new game called Halo Fireteam Raven. You play the game as part of the ODST, and you fight right alongside Master Chief. So there's always the possibility you'll hear Cortana talking in there somewhere. And the game plays somewhere between a traditional Halo game and a traditional arcade shooter. Unlike a traditional Halo game, you don't have a split screen. It's more like a traditional arcade shooter where it's just one thing and you fire at what you fire at. But you're also playing in the Halo universe. And so here's the thing that's cool about the cabinet. 130-inch 4K screen with 4 players. We've got a link in the article at PLUGHITZlive.com that will take you to a video of the cabinet in action. And when you see this hardware, it is unbelievably beautiful. It's the kind of thing like the old turret game where you got like inside of a helmet and you spun around. It was like an early VR arcade game. I can't think of what it was called. Something Beach. It's like that. When you see it from a distance, you'll be like, I have to see what that is, and walk over to it because it's an unbelievable piece of hardware. I can't wait to see one in action.
So here's the question.
Yes.
Will Billy Mitchell find a way of driving up his high score? Will he play it on his home computer?
Oh, God. I was not prepared for that. I almost spit out my drink.
Will he play Halo on Halo on his PC, and then you know, this is, I mean, there's not a lot of reasons to go to an arcade in 2018. So I think it's really fascinating that Microsoft has found a way to actually make the arcade relevant.
And we've started to see like a resurgence in interest in arcades, but not in the way that you and I remember. We've been seeing these barcades happen a lot. We had one in Orlando 20 years ago that was really popular, but it was kind of the only one that I knew of. And now we've got a couple of them just in our area here in the Tampa area that are a little bit bar, a little bit arcade, and a lot of fun. When we were in New Orleans for Collision a couple of weeks ago, we met up with a friend who's moved out there, and we went to one that was within walking distance of our hotel.
I mean, that stuff is really fun to do with friends. Don't get me wrong. You know, it's I mean, it's great to be able to go out and actually like have the experience of being in a public place using the machines. Particularly if you're going, were the ones you were going to primarily haven't had, did the one you went to have classic games primarily?
The one in New Orleans, yes.
Because I mean, you know, we have many here in the New York area that are classic games, but then you've got like Dave and Buster's, where it's more modern arcade games, which you wonder, are they just manufacturing them for Dave and Buster's at this point? And the other place where I see arcade games a fair amount is when I take my son to things. So like Chuck E. Cheese has a lot of arcade games, but they don't have. I don't think they have anything as cool as Halo, or I don't think they will. You know,
it doesn't seem like
kids.
It doesn't seem like their market.
I mean, they had some stuff that's surprisingly adult there. Don't get me wrong. They had things with guns where you shoot things. They had like a really cool like Batmobile flying game where you're like in the chair with the steering wheel. I mean, that's one thing that you really can get out of the arcade experience that is hard to get at home, is when you've got like a really particular type of cabinet, like one with a racing chair and a steering wheel. I mean, yes, you could create that at home, but it's a little bit difficult and expensive to do that. So, I mean, the other thing that I think we're starting to see happen are places where you could go to use like an HTC Vive.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That's prohibitive at home. Like,
sure.
You know.
And I think like if we think back to the more classic arcade cabinets, they didn't necessarily. If you stay classic, they don't necessarily offer anything that is difficult to replicate.
Right.
Like an arcade fighter. Well, the arcade sticks became a USB connection on the Xbox, and well, you're done. So the idea of creating something that you can't have at home, something like the Cruisin' Exotica and Cruisin' USA type games, the Jurassic Park shooter that was really popular in the past. This game here, replicating something that is prohibitive at home is really, I think, what will help bring the desire to go to a place to game back.
Yes, exactly. Because honestly, it's not, there's not, I mean, it's nostalgia, you go out with friends, whatever, but there's not a lot of, there's nothing that great about going out to use, particularly when it's so inexpensive to have a good gaming console at home. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that exciting about going and playing a 2D game with it, on an arcade machine. But when you have something like this, like, wow, you really can't replicate it easily at home.
Right. You and I aren't going to have a 130-inch screen with 4 hand-controlled ODST guns.
Yeah, probably
in our
not.
living room.
Probably not.
So,
I've always loved the gun games when I go to an arcade, because that's something else that's really hard to replicate at home.
Yeah, arcade shooters are totally different than traditional first or third person console or PC shooters. I mean, the only real example that I can think of that was a consumer success that fit into that space was Duck Hunt.
Right. Exactly.
And that was 35 years ago.
Right. Exactly. They don't make a good situation for at home for doing that. Like, you just can't. Now, I believe there's a VR game, Arizona Sunshine, that gives you sort of. No, it doesn't even really give you the gun, right? I always think about like House of the Dead as like my
yes,
as like one of my favorite arcade games, because it just really like is that experience that you can't really have so easily at home.
Exactly, and this is that game in the Halo universe. Yeah. So I can't wait to see one of these. As you mentioned before, of course, Dave & Buster's is the place that's going to get it first, because of course it is. They're the logical partner to release this hardware initially, and then that'll be coming out this summer. So very soon you'll be able to see these in Dave & Buster's across the U.S. and Canada. In fact, from what I understand, every Dave & Buster's across U.S. and Canada will have one of these cabinets, and then after the initial launch, they will be available to other arcades, barcades, and maybe collectors, probably through traditional arcade cabinet distribution channels, to be able to pick one up. I cannot wait for them to hit. I'm going to go to a Dave & Buster's right away and see this thing in action, because it sounds fascinating.
It sounds great.
This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live is proudly powered by RiffTrax. Make fun of movies, or let the professionals do it, because it'll be a lot funnier. The guys who used to do Mystery Science Theater 3000 are back and doing what they do best, making fun of movies. From blockbusters to The House on Sorority Row. You can't make these things up. They've got a little bit of everything. The way it works is for a couple of bucks, you download the MP3, either on your PC or through your phone. Play it along with your with the movie on DVD, Netflix, Amazon, wherever it happens to be, and laugh. From time to time, they do mix things up a little bit and do live events in movie theaters nationwide. The next RiffTrax Live is Space Mutiny on June 14th. And to find out all of the theaters that you can watch Space Mutiny with us in, or to find out all of the movies and short films that are available, you can go to f5live.tv/RiffTrax with an X. I always love the live events. I can't wait to do the next one. Anyway, let's talk about net neutrality. A little over a year ago, it was decided that the FCC would not be implementing a series of guidelines that they had written, and that they were handing the ball over to Congress, who is the organization in the United States who is responsible for actually passing laws. And this week, after 13 months of public opinions and protests and all kinds of things, the Senate passed a resolution, which was, they took the easy way out, which is okay. They took the guidelines that had originally been written, drafted within the FCC, and passed them directly, as is, which is okay, because I think as they were written, they protected what they were trying to protect. Now, it has to go to the House, and then it has to be signed by the president. But the House, in particular the House Democrats, seem very interested in at least calling for a vote. Just because it does not necessarily pass the first time does not mean that it is complete. The Senate or the House could alter the guidelines in law and not just codify what was already written. And with a thing like this, they tend to go back and forth a little bit until they agree on something. But it did not, the Senate did not vote 100% down party lines, obviously, since the Democrats don't control the Senate, and it passed anyway. So it was 52-47. So there is definitely a growing support even within Congress to have this happen. So that is definitely a good thing for net neutrality supporters. You may remember a year ago when we first talked about this, I said that I was in a very strange minority who believed in net neutrality and was happy that the FCC was not trying to take control. This is the way it's supposed to happen, and I'm very happy that it has. 2 more steps.
Yes, I'm a little more pessimistic though. I mean, it's great that it's great that that it passed one house of Congress, just barely, I might add, 52 by only 52 votes. But the balance of the House of Representatives is much
different.
Is much different. And let's just for a second say that it gets past the House of Representatives, which I don't think it will, but let's say that it does. Remember that the FCC that the president is the one who appointed the head of the FCC, who got rid of net neutrality. So, like, you would have to basically be able to override the veto,
which
that takes a two-third majority in Congress. That is exceedingly unlikely. Look, they didn't get the 2/3 in the Senate. So I think that while this is a nice symbolic victory that it passed one house of Congress, I don't think it's going any further than this, which means that, as of next month, net neutrality will no longer be the law of the land, and we will start to see exactly how companies, internet service providers, use that new freedom of theirs to impose restrictions on the free flow of information. My guess is that they won't do anything too radical at first, because they don't want to be, caught proving the critics right. But I think it'll slowly ramp up, and you will see things like favoritism of different websites and different service providers. You will see, people are very concerned about the ISP charging you more for your usage, but I'm more concerned about the ISP trying to effectively get kickbacks from content providers. Like, it's terrible, obviously, if my ISP wants to charge me more money. I don't want to give them more money, but here's the thing, right? Like, if right now they're entitled to put data caps on my data, net neutrality does not prevent them from raising my rates or putting data caps on my data.
Right.
Net neutrality only prevents them from discriminating against different types of traffic.
Right.
And by the way, only wired internet, wireless internet has never been covered by this, right?
Right.
So now your ISP could decide. Your ISP, let's say, could be Comcast, and Comcast owns NBC, and NBC is a partner in Hulu, is it not? So like, maybe Comcast sees CBS Access Online, CBS All Access as a competitor, as a threat. Maybe will significantly slow down, or I don't know, maybe even stop people from being able to watch Star Trek Discovery, because we're Comcast and CBS is a competitor. Or maybe we will want to charge other sites like Netflix and Amazon Prime Video all extra money to be viewed by our subscribers.
Right.
Well, wait a second. So now, don't feel sorry for Amazon and Netflix. Like, yes, they may raise your rate, but they're probably not going anywhere. They've got money. But how about small and medium sized websites? How about, how about what if they decide that they don't like what I'm saying on my website? So they just block it. Like, if I'm Comcast, if I'm the cable company, why don't I want to block people's ability to use my website to sign up, to use my web service to sign up for the competition? Like,
Or maybe to post on ComcastSucks.com.
right. So many things. So many things. Maybe they want to stop you from reading articles about net neutrality.
Right.
That's how far it could go.
Which is what the Chinese government does.
Yeah. Maybe they want, we are putting in the hands of private companies something that dictatorships and other, totalitarian regimes in other places do as a matter of course, decide what you can and can't see. Now, obviously, the rebuttal to this is, well, if I don't like what my ISP is doing, I can just leave and get another ISP. Nobody's forcing you to use that ISP. Oh, really? How many people in America have have a lot of choices of ISP?
Yeah. How many people are locked? I only have one choice where I am.
So you have the typical household has one or two choices.
Right.
And if you only have two choices, there's a good chance that both of them are going to be doing this. So, it's like saying, if you don't like that airlines are charging baggage fees, you should pick a different airline. Name an airline that's not charging baggage fees.
Southwest.
Okay, there's one.
It's the only one.
But not flying everywhere you want to go.
Right. It's
not available to everyone.
Only one I know.
Right? Not available to everyone. So it's the fact is, when one business starts doing something, the other businesses follow suit. Right?
Absolutely.
So when one airline starts charging for baggage, most of them will start charging for baggage. When one ISP starts blocking sites or charging extra for things or whatever, I guarantee you their competitors will do the same thing.
Now, to play devil's advocate, the last time in the 8 years between the expiration of the actual net neutrality laws and the implementation of the guidelines under the FCC, which are not as big as the actual law was, dating back 10 or 12 years, we did have the largest growth in selection of ISPs.
Yes, from 1 to 2.
We had, in our area here, we had all kinds of small players that came up and challenged the big guys. And then they all went away a couple years ago.
Well, it's a hard business to challenge somebody in, because ultimately you're going to have to pay for somebody else's infrastructure, right? I mean, there's only so many companies that have the rights of way and the money to lay cable, right?
Only so many places have backbone access.
Right. So so if you're a small ISP, what you're doing is you're probably renting that capacity from somebody, and they can impose their restrictions on it too. Ultimately, this is why there's such a thing as public utility laws, because we cannot have 20 different electric companies competing for your house. We cannot have a whole slew of different water companies competing to give your water. There's just not enough pipe in the world to do it. So therefore, the fact that these utilities have a monopoly, basically, or close to monopoly, means that they can't be allowed to just do whatever they want, because otherwise there's nobody to stop them.
Absolutely. And to be fair, that's where the Federal Trade Commission comes in. But yes, there's obviously a lot of potential for abuse here. There's also under certain circumstances, possibility for growth. We don't know. We don't know what'll happen this time compared to last time. Obviously, our reliance on data today is very different than it was even 3 years ago when the guidelines were first originally drafted. Let alone a decade ago when the law expired. I hope that they will find a ground somewhere. Obviously, Republicans jumped party on this vote. Maybe the House, who feels confident, maybe the House will be able to pull more their direction, or be able to find a middle ground through which they can get something through. Maybe the FCC's guidelines as they aren't codified, but maybe something else is. We'll know probably in the short term, because like you said, June 11th is the date that the FCC gave Congress to act. So hopefully they will fight it out pretty quickly. This week's DRM not included on F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. The features, the basic feature. You get free shipping, sometimes same day, but there's a lot more to it. There's Amazon Prime Music, where you can stream a couple of million tracks for free. There's Prime Video with movies and TV and original content all available as part of your plan. And my new favorite feature is Twitch Prime. You can get one free subscription to a channel on Twitch, which you could use to subscribe to us if you would like to. And for me, the thing that has been exciting has been the free games that you get through Twitch Prime. This week, I played one of the Twitch Prime free games. It is one of my all-time favorite games. Psychonauts is available for free right now, and there's a number of other games as well. You can find out all of the features that come with an Amazon Prime subscription, including Whole Foods and all of that stuff. And if you're not already a subscriber, you can get a 30-day free trial, all by going to f5live.tv/prime. I was so excited when I saw Psychonauts show up on Twitch Prime. I downloaded it that day. Anyway, let's talk about YouTube. We've talked about YouTube a lot, especially over the last, let's say, year, right? It seems like every couple of weeks they step in something weird, whether it be advertising issues or the collection of children's browsing history, stricter guidelines on content, or what was recently a bit of a creator exodus from the platform. They seem to constantly be making headlines for the wrong reason. As these problems happen, obviously that means that revenue is going to be a problem for the company. And so they have tried to work out a way to generate some subscription revenue, and they have done some rebranding. They have created some new services, and all of them are confusing. So obviously Avram and I are here to try and break down some of these new things for you. They have had, or now, they created two new paid tiers, YouTube Music and YouTube Premium. And when you combine that with Google Play Music All Access, the company has 3 subscription services for music streaming. Plus, when you add in YouTube Red, which is another paid plan for YouTube, they have 4 different ways of paying for basically the same content across YouTube. On the 22nd, which as of the broadcast right now is in 2 days, these new plans will go into effect, and here's what you're going to see. Google Play Music All Access. As it stands today, $10 a month, and with it, you get a free subscription to YouTube Music, which is a pretty good deal. You get unlimited streaming of music through Google Play Music and through the YouTube Music app. So it used to be that you got YouTube Red. As of Tuesday, you'll get YouTube Music. Either way, you get 2 services for $10 a month, which is pretty good when you take in consideration that YouTube Music, which is one of the new plans, is $10 a month. It gives you ad-free music and music videos, which is kind of a cool capability for that same $10 a month. But it does not look like they will give you the other service if you subscribe the other way. So maybe go subscribe for Google Play Music All Access today and get both services for the same price. Just my guess. YouTube Red, which has been around since 2015. It's been billed primarily as an ad-free subscription service for YouTube, kind of like the extra $4 on Hulu where you don't get ads anymore. That will be going away on Tuesday and will instead be replaced by YouTube Premium. However, YouTube Premium is going to be $12 a month. If you're subscribed to YouTube Red right now, which is $10 a month, you will continue to get that price for an undetermined amount of time. So, if you're wanting to sign up for YouTube Premium, I would do it tonight and keep that $10 price instead of the $12 price that goes into effect on Tuesday, which will include all of the features of YouTube Red, which include the ad-free browsing experience, the unique content, and will add YouTube Music as well. So for $12, you get everything that you used to get for $10, and you get YouTube Music, which is also $10 for that $12. So let's put it this way. If you're a big YouTube fan and you spend a lot of time on YouTube, the $12 will get rid of the ads, get you access to that exclusive content, and give you access to YouTube Music for music videos and music for $12. If that ad-free and exclusive content isn't the thing you're interested in, for that same $10, Spotify or Apple Music will give you way more music. So the YouTube Music plan, not yet a great deal. It might get there, but today both Spotify and Apple Music offer more music for that $10. So if it were me, I'd go that way. But if you're a big YouTube user, YouTube Premium or YouTube Red, today versus Tuesday, pretty good deal. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to get excited about paying for YouTube. I mean, I know it's a convenience, but it's hard for me to get excited about. Like, there's just so many subscription services that you end up paying for. It's just getting to be too many little charges on the credit card every month.
Totally agree.
Eating away. So it's like, oh, you mean you gotta like watch a commercial for 15 seconds? Okay, I'll deal with that. You know, like,
totally agree.
You know, I mean, you got to pay for things that you just cannot get elsewhere, right?
Right.
That you really got to have. So, like, you know, yes, I paid for CBS All Access while Star Trek Discovery was on the air because I really wanted to see that. You know, of course, once it was over, I canceled. But if they come back again, whenever they come back again, I'll resubscribe. You know, Netflix, I got to give them some props. Like, for the longest time, I really was thinking of getting rid of Netflix. I didn't watch that much Netflix stuff on Netflix. The you know, archival movies, it never seems like they have the movie that you want. You know, but of late, the last several months, it seems like a couple of times a month now, they have original series that I want to watch.
Yeah.
It's enough that if I'm using it, if I'm And then my son, there's a lot of really high quality kid stuff that they're producing now.
Yeah, there is.
Like they really like turn the volume up to 11 on kids programming. So like it's, as far as like an original content provider, it's like a lot better. That it's way better. I know some will disagree with me than like HBO. Like you're paying your, if you're paying extra for HBO, either for HBO Go or for part of your extra for your cable package, like, sorry. I mean, I guess you get your Game of Thrones and your Westworld, but I don't really find that, like, beyond that a couple of shows, HBO is really giving me a lot. But Netflix gives you a lot. But YouTube, I mean, most of the things that I consume on YouTube are free user uploaded content.
Right.
So, okay, so yeah, occasionally I have to watch a short video before I'll handle it.
Yeah, and it really comes down to your priorities and the kinds of things that you watch. The stuff, the YouTube Red original content that's blocked behind the paywall, I have yet to see something in there that I cared about. I mean, they just premiered a Karate Kid 20 years later.
Yes, Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Right.
And so,
yes,
okay,
that's what you want to pay for, right? You want to see more Karate Kid.
It's like, okay, so the original content is starting to get more interesting. At least, it's not the traditional YouTube stars doing their normal thing just now behind the paywall, which I don't care about. That's never been my thing. A 22-year-old playing pranks on their friends, or what the Logan Paul in the Suicide Forest, that kind of thing has never been my thing. So for me, YouTube is not a priority. But when I hear Kimmy Schmidt's coming back on the 30th, Netflix is a priority for me. But
right,
for somebody else, it may be the other way around. They may not care about Kimmy Schmidt or Stranger Things, but might be really excited about whoever replaces Logan Paul, since I don't think he's allowed to create content anymore.
Yes. So, well, thankfully, no more. Thankfully, hopefully, there won't be more Logan Paul. I mean, I find YouTube is very useful for very particular things, right? And it's not like, it's very useful for like finding information, like you need help with something.
Yeah.
Like tutorials,
video game walkthroughs.
Video game walkthroughs, I use it a lot. My son is very obsessed with watching reviews of things.
Okay.
That he doesn't have. Like, can we see a video of this? I was like, why? You've seen like 3 videos of this toy. Like, so like,
he's so funny.
Those are things that. And he also believes that everything probably exists on YouTube in some format too, like some mishmash. He's like, well, I want you to find me a video of somebody combining Legos with their Wowie Koji robot or something. Like, I'm like, I don't think anyone's done that. It's like, why not? So it's but. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I guess if there was no other way to see that content and I didn't have to like watch a commercial first, I just couldn't see it. That I might be incented to pay just because I use it. So I use it a lot. But I guess YouTube is something you use a lot and value little.
That's definitely my view on it.
I certainly do use it a lot. Like if it went away, if it was blocked off by a paywall entirely, I might be like, I kind of miss this content. But I bet you somebody else would pop up to do it if they paywalled everything.
Oh,
so
yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that the free market would take care of that real quick.
Yes,
that would be YouTube shooting themselves in the foot.
Right. So,
I had not thought about Wowie as a brand in a while until you just said their name. I used to sell a lot of their products when I was in retail, and it's fascinating to see how many of the products that we sold years ago are still on here in upgraded versions.
Yeah, he this is a long story short. He got, for his birthday, we took him to Toys R Us, and one toy that he saw that he thought would be really cool was this robot called the Koji, which is basically a rolling around robot that puts emojis on its face. And he thought it was like the coolest thing, even though we got him like a much better robot. Like we got him a Wonder Workshop like Dash, which is like, like 5 times the price and can do like 10 times as much. But he liked it because it has this little screen on it. So like,
fair enough.
Yeah. So what can you say? He's learned about companies now, so he keeps imagining what the company will do. He's like, maybe Wowie will come out with another robot that lets you do this. Like he could do like he can do R&D for anybody. He could do focus group development.
Oh, he is a fascinating kid. The Elmo version of the Koji is kind of terrifying.
I'm sure it is.
It's
I'm sure it is. I
scaring
don't want to
me.
encourage that one.
I can't look at it anymore. Anyway, yeah. So I guess if YouTube's a big priority for you, and the stuff that they hide behind the former YouTube Red paywall is important, sign up for YouTube Red tonight or tomorrow before the 22nd and save that $2 a month, and then you'll get the YouTube Music included, which is a pretty good deal. Because if you're going to if you're going to stream music anyway, and the catalog isn't 100% your focus, then the $10 a month that you might spend with Spotify or Apple Music might be better spent on something like YouTube Red, where you get to also get rid of the ads on YouTube if that's something that's important to you. But like Avram and I said, that's not our priority, but maybe it is for you. If it is, sign up now before it goes up $2 a month